Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-Tahirin. قال الله في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هل ننبئكم بالأخسرين أعمالا الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Illuminate your hearts and minds with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. This world, or the dunya, our temporary abode as we know it. We live here, we stay here for some time, and we'll leave. But the things that we do in this world will give meaning to the dunya itself for each and every single one of us. If I do good in this world, my dunya will be good. If I do bad, my dunya will be bad. Some might come and say that the dunya is completely bad. Hate whatever's inside it, hate it completely and entirely. Some people might say the dunya is great, so many opportunities, so many chances. In reality, it's neither good nor bad. But in fact, it's given good or bad based on how it's used. Take the dunya or your world as a vase, a glass vase. How would you adorn this vase? Do you put trash and garbage inside it? If you were to do such a thing, this would turn out to be a bad vase. If you were to adorn it with jewels, jewelry maybe, very light colored flowers, beautiful flowers, this will be a good vase. In this world is exactly as that. In this world, we give it meaning through what we put inside of it. This world is neither good or bad, but is given good or bad based on what's put inside of it. Sometimes it's possible that some person might use the world well. It's as if they're putting beautiful fresh flowers inside of this vase. Some might use it very badly. It's as if they're just throwing rubbish and garbage inside of this vase. The meaning or definition of good or bad is given based on how it's used or what's put inside of this world. Indeed, the dunya is something that is full of possibilities, chances, ways for you to elevate your status. But on top of that, it can also be used to completely put you in the deepest pits of hell. How you use it is what's important. How you make use of it is what actually has an effect on the meaning of your dunya. I, as a person, may use this world in the greatest way possible. It's as if I'm putting flowers, fresh flowers, inside of this vase. I might order these flowers, color code them. I might just put flowers without any set order, or I might use it in the worst way possible. I put rubbish, garbage. It's possible that sometimes I have the impression that what I'm doing is good, but it ends out completely bad, useless. Sometimes it's possible that I may put a flower inside of the vase, but I wasn't paying attention. This flower in reality was dead. There was no life given to this vase and no beauty because I wasn't paying attention. And that happens to many of us. Many of us may think that we are trying to do good in this world, but in reality, it's a dead flower which we are deluded in this impression that it's actually good. And what I'm doing will really give good meaning and definition to my world, my dunya. Among these actions is when someone wants to do an action for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but completely disregards the conditions and rules and laws set upon it. If I want to do my prayer for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, it's necessary that I go with the correct rules, the correct laws, the correct procedures for this to truly be a fresh and beautiful flower that I can put in my vase of the dunya. But if I'm not paying attention at all, it's as if I just put a dead flower inside of this vase, thinking that it was something good, but in reality, it made my vase completely lose beauty, and it also made it ugly on top of that. We must always be very careful on the rulings and procedures needed for each and every single action. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't want anything from you. He wanted from you that way which He Himself knows to be good and correct. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Ahsanul Khaliqeen, the greatest creator. So without a doubt, He knows what's good and what's bad. If He ruled upon you and made a condition that in your prayers you have to have wudu, it's not out of egoistic, it's not because it's not out of ego or selfishness, but in fact He knows that it's good and this is worthy of His status. So do your prayers, if you're doing it for me to begin with, so since you're doing it for me, do it that way which I want. Follow these procedures, take care of the conditions, and then will this action truly be a beautiful fresh flower that you can put in the vase of the dunya. But it's possible that a person may go overboard. I want to go over the conditions, procedures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligated for me, mandated upon me for His actions. But sometimes it's so stressful for some to the point where they get an OCD in Islamic rituals, also as known as waswas. This waswas is not something actually known to be for someone intellectual, but in fact it's just someone who is deluded to think that what they're doing is correct. If I do an action for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that way which He has wanted me, then obviously any person would be, well, I want to do it that way which He wants it, correct? So I have to be careful of every single detail. When that's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted from us to begin with. If I'm doing something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He doesn't want from me waswas or any perfectness, because we aren't all perfect, it's possible we may make mistakes, but we have to go over it that way which we are capable. لا يكلف الناس لا يكلف الله النفس إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not obligate upon you anything that is out of your limits. Do what you are able to do. Do what you can. And trying to go overboard will actually result in this being a dead flower which you thought was going to be good for your vase. This world is a world which we can adorn it and give it the meaning of good or bad based on what we do. Now, what we do is important, but also how we do it. If I were to put a dead flower inside the vase of this dunya, it would be an ugly thing to put. I might think and have this impression that it's good, but in reality it's bad. That's the same exact thing for waswas. Waswas in reality is basically OCD inside of Islamic rituals and religion. You can go sometimes, for example, some mosques, you may see that one man in a corner is confused and stuck on saying wala dhalin. Another person in another corner is stuck on saying Allahu Akbar repeatedly, to the point where some of us might get tired and want to get it over with. Indeed, waswas or OCD, if we can translate it like that, in religion, too much doubt is something that turns your actions into something ugly, something disliked. In reality, our thoughts, our afkar, peace and Allah, salawat ala Muhammad and ala Muhammad. Indeed, our thoughts or our afkar are divided into two: ilham and waswasa. Ilham is known to be those thoughts which have benefits and use for you, and waswasa are those thoughts which some have translated into this: hadithun nafs bima la naf'a fi wala khair. It's the thought that may occur in one person's heart that neither has good in it nor any benefit. It's completely bad, the exact opposite. It's not good and it does have no benefit. Now, waswasa should be taken as a big circle. And inside of this circle, we have many smaller circles. These smaller circles may be consisted of maybe lust, selfishness, bad acts. All of these are parts of waswasa. Waswasa in general means bad thoughts. Anything that might have evil in your thoughts, corrupt. But a part of this waswasa, we know something to be waswas, also known as we call it, as we refer to it, the OCD in one's faith and ritual practices. When I have waswas, for example, In fact, it's not something good, but it's something bad. Some might come and say that, well, I'm doing it for God and I'm doing it that way which He wants in me. When in reality, you're not doing it that way which He wants. You're thinking that you're doing it that way which He wants. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, follow my rules. Follow them that way you are capable of. If you aren't capable, then don't go overboard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to go overboard or exceed in the necessary. If I'm doing my prayers and I don't know whether I'm najis or not, then I don't need to wash myself because I don't know. If I'm doing my prayer and I don't know if my ablution before has disappeared or not, then it's not upon me to get ablution. This is all unnecessary OCD. I know myself. It's usually in the older people. They're more careful. It's not something bad, but it's usually in the older people. They are more careful and more delicate with these things. I know a person, an elderly woman, who when praying, she would sometimes completely renew her prayer because it didn't feel right. Everything was correct, all the rules, all the procedures were all gone over, but at the end of prayer, she would say that this prayer didn't feel right. Because it didn't feel right, I'm doing it all over again. This is funny. This is hilarious. Some might laugh at this, but it's a real problem that many of us have. This waswas or waswasa, when some might think that it's good for me, I'm doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In reality, you're doing something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want from you. Something excessive, something unneeded, unnecessary. Some scholars have also gone and said that waswas is وَيُخَالِفُ اللَّهِ وَيَظُنُّ أَنَّهُ فِي طَاعَتِهِ. Some scholars have described waswas as this: as a person who has waswasa or OCD is considered a person who thinks they are following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, but in reality are going against Him. We can see this in a hadith from the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. A person came to the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Ibn Sanan. He said, ذَكَرْتُ لَأَبِي عَبْدِ اللَّهِ alayhi salam. I was talking to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about a man, رَجُلًا مُبْتَلًا بِالْوُضُوءِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَقُلْتُ هُوَ رَجُلٌ عَاقِلٌ. I was talking with the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about a man who had OCD and waswas in both his wudu and his prayers. And after that, I said that he's a very intellectual person. He cares about his religion and he's very delicate with it. The Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, فَقَالَ أَبُو عَبْدِ اللَّهِ alayhi salam وَأَيُّ عَقْلٍ لَهُ وَهُوَ يُطِيعُ الشَّيْطَانِ. What kind of intellect or aql does this person have when in reality he's following none other than the devil himself? You're doing something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want from you. Ibn Sanan asked, وَكَيْفَ يُطِيعُ الشَّيْطَانِ. How is he following the devil? Why was he following the devil? Why would you say that this person in reality is following the orders of the Satan, devil, shaitan? فقال عليه السلام. The Imam Sadiq عليه السلام replied, سَلْهُ هَذَا الَّذِي يَأْتِيهِ مِنْ أَيِّ شَيْءٍ هُوَ. Ask him, this OCD or this delicacy that you have in your wudu and prayer, what is it? Tell me and explain to me, what is it that you exactly are doing? And he will tell you, فَإِنَّهُ يَقُولُ لَكَ. And he will tell you, مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. This person himself knows that what I'm doing, مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ, is of the actions of Satan or the devil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants each and every single one of us to follow Him, to go over the procedures and conditions that He has made mandated upon us. So it's obviously clear to me that I have to follow each and every single one of them. But does that mean that I should go more? If we had no hadith, we had no verse in the Quran which would tell us that no, it's okay for you to do this, then sure, go overboard. But we have hadith and ahadith and the Quran himself, which they say that doing such things for no reason is excessive, and I don't want it from you as Allah. I don't want it from you. You think that you're following me, but in reality, you're going against what I told you. And these actions are of no fruition and will be like a dead rose inside of this vase of the dunya. We can see this in the verse which is recited in the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf, from the 103rd verse to the 104th. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. Say, shall I inform you of the greatest losers in their actions? الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. They are those who work hard in this world. They try their hardest in this world and they think that they are doing good and it's going to count as something good for them. It's going to count as an investment, but in reality, it's nothing and it will have no benefit for them. Now, as we have reached our time limit for tonight, we shall continue with this topic in the future nights, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq, success of becoming among the true Shi'as of the Ahlul Bayt, and may we be all alim and amil to the teachings of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin.